Welcome to Lento English. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories, slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
1. Introduction. The United States and Russia are two very powerful countries. Their relationship has been important for the whole world for more than 100 years. It started with friendly trade and working together. Over time, it grew into a time of different ideas and struggles for power. This story will explore the long and often difficult history of these two nations. We will look at their early friendly times and their current problems in the 21st century. This book aims to present a clear picture of their journey. It will show how they moved from being allies to sometimes being rivals. We will try to understand both sides of their story. Our goal is to be neutral and fair. This way we can learn about the many complex parts of their shared past. At first, their interactions were simpler. In the 1700s, trade began between early America and Russia. They also made official government ties in 1809. A big moment was in 1867 when Russia sold Alaska to the United States. This deal showed they could cooperate and make important agreements. However, the 1900s brought big changes. In 1917, Russia had a revolution and became a communist country. This idea of government was very different from America's democracy and capitalism. This difference started a deep mistrust between them. After World War II, even though they fought on the same side, their ideas for the world were very different. This led to the beginning of the Cold War. During this time, the world was divided. The Cold War was a long period of tension. The two countries did not fight a big war directly with each other, but they built many nuclear weapons. This was called the arms race. They also competed to be first in space. They supported different sides in smaller wars around the world. These were called proxy wars. After many years, the Soviet Union ended in 1991. This marked the end of the Cold War. A new time of friendship seemed possible. The United States and Russia worked together on some global issues. But soon, new disagreements appeared. These included the expansion of a military group called NATO. Russia saw this as a threat. In the 21st century, Russia wanted to be a strong world power again. This led to new problems with the United States. They had big disagreements about places like Ukraine and Syria. These events made their relationship difficult again. Today, the United States and Russia remain key players in the world. This book will help us understand their journey from early friendship to the challenges they face today. 2. Early friends. Long before they became known as rivals, the United States and Russia shared a period of friendly relations. Their story began with peaceful interactions and a sense of cooperation. These early years set a foundation for their future, showing a time when common interests brought them together. In the 1800s, initial contacts between the American colonies and the Russian Empire focused mostly on trade. People from both distant lands exchanged various goods. This early buying and selling helped them to connect and learn about each other's cultures and needs. It was through these commercial links that the first threads of their relationship were woven. Later, in 1809, their relationship became more formal. Both nations established official diplomatic ties. This meant they agreed to send representatives to each other's countries. These diplomats could then talk directly about important matters, helping to build a more structured and stable connection between the two growing powers. A very important show of friendship came during the American Civil War. This war, fought in the United States from 1861 to 1865, divided the country. Many European nations chose not to take a side. However, Russia stood out. It was one of the few big European powers that openly supported the Union, which was the northern states of America. This support was significant. It showed that Russia valued its relationship with the United States and believed in the Union's cause. This act of friendship during a difficult time for America strengthened the bond between the two nations even further. The relationship saw another landmark event in 1867. This was when Russia sold the vast territory of Alaska to the United States. The price for this huge land was $7.2 million. Russia had several reasons for selling Alaska. It felt the land was too far away and difficult to manage from its main cities in Europe. Russia also wanted to focus its attention and resources closer to home. For the United States, buying Alaska was a chance for great expansion. Americans wanted to grow their country and gain more land across the continent. This purchase helped the United States become much larger. The sale of Alaska was a clear sign of trust and goodwill between Russia and the United States at that time. It was a deal that benefited both nations and marked a key moment in their early cooperative history. This period showed them as allies, not adversaries, working together for mutual benefit. 3. Different ideas. The friendly relationship between the United States and Russia saw a major change in the 20th century. A very important event took place in Russia in the year 1917. This event was known as the Bolshevik Revolution. After this revolution, Russia got a new kind of government. It became a communist government. This was a completely new way to organize a country and its people. Communism was a system where the government had a lot of power. It owned most of the land, factories, and businesses. The main goal was to create a society where everyone was equal and resources were shared by all. There would be no very rich people and no very poor people. Decisions about the economy and daily life were made by the state, not by individuals. This way of thinking was very different from the ideas that shaped the United States. America believed in capitalism and democracy. In a capitalist system, private individuals and companies own businesses. They compete to make money and grow. People have the freedom to own property and choose their jobs. They believed that this system brought innovation and prosperity. Democracy meant that citizens could vote for their leaders. They had many personal freedoms and rights, like freedom of speech. These ideas were central to the American way of life and government. So communism in Russia and capitalism and democracy in America were two very different ways to live and govern. They were almost complete opposites in how they saw the economy, individual rights, and the role of government. This big difference in ideas created a deep feeling of mistrust between the two powerful nations. The United States did not agree with communism. It worried about the spread of this new system to other countries around the world. The new communist Russia, which soon became known as the Soviet Union, also did not trust the capitalist and democratic West. This period marked a significant shift in their relationship. The two nations, which had once found ways to work together, now looked at each other with great suspicion. Their different beliefs about how a country should be run caused a major divide. This divide would become wider and more serious over many years, affecting global politics. It laid the groundwork for a long time of tension and competition between them. This was not like the earlier days of friendly trade and land sales. It was a new, difficult era where their fundamental ideas about the world clashed, leading to a profound change in their interactions. The world would soon see how these different ideas would play out on a global stage. 4. A world divided. During World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union fought together. They were allies against a common enemy. Many people hoped this friendship would continue after the war. However, their ideas for the world's future were very different. Once the war finished, new problems quickly began. The Soviet Union wanted to make sure its borders were safe. It also aimed to spread its communist system. So it helped set up communist governments in countries across Eastern Europe. These nations included Poland, Hungary, and East Germany. This was seen as a way to protect the Soviet Union and expand its influence. But the United States and its Western friends saw things differently. They believed the Soviet Union was trying to take over more land. They feared that communism would spread across Europe and further. This worried them greatly. The ideas of freedom and capitalism, important to the USA, were in strong opposition to Soviet communism. This disagreement led to a new kind of struggle called the Cold War. This was not a hot war with direct fighting between the two big powers. Instead, it was a long period of tension, fear, and competition. Both sides tried to become stronger without starting a direct military conflict, using political and economic means. In 1946, a famous leader spoke about this new situation. Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, gave an important speech. He said that an iron curtain had fallen across Europe. This iron curtain was not a real barrier. It was a powerful way to describe the deep division between Eastern and Western Europe. On one side of this invisible curtain were the Soviet Union and its communist allies, called the Eastern Bloc. On the other side were the United States and its democratic friends, known as the Western Bloc. Europe was now clearly split into two main parts. Each part had different governments, economies, and ways of thinking. The Iron Curtain meant that people, goods, and ideas could not easily move between these two parts. It showed how deeply the world was now divided. The Cold War had truly begun, changing global politics for many years. This division shaped how nations acted and lived. The world was split with two powerful sides facing each other, full of mistrust, marking a challenging new era. 5. A long, tense time. The Cold War was a time of great tension and uncertainty that lasted for many decades. During this long period, the United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a deep rivalry. They did not fight a direct large war with each other, but the world lived with a constant feeling of danger. Both nations were incredibly powerful, and their actions affected countries all over the globe. This era was marked by different kinds of competition, showing their strength and their different ideas about how the world should work. It was a time that many people remember for its challenges and its fears. One of the most frightening parts of this period was the nuclear arms race. Both the USA and the Soviet Union worked hard to build more and more nuclear weapons. These weapons were extremely powerful, much more so than any bombs seen before. Each side wanted to have a bigger and better collection of these destructive tools. By the end, both countries had enough nuclear bombs to destroy the other many times over. This created a very dangerous situation. The idea was that if one side attacked with nuclear weapons, the other side would immediately attack back. This would lead to the destruction of both nations. This terrible balance was known as mutually assured destruction, and it prevented a direct nuclear war, but the threat was always there, making the world feel very unsafe. Another exciting competition was the space race. This was a battle of science and technology. The United States and the Soviet Union both wanted to be the leaders in exploring outer space. They aimed to be the first to send satellites into orbit around Earth. Then the goal was to send humans into space. The Soviet Union achieved some important firsts, like launching the first satellite, Sputnik, and sending the first man, Yuri Gagarin, into space. The USA then worked very hard to reach its own goals, like being the first to land a person on the moon. This race showed off each country's scientific skills and technological power. It brought many new discoveries and much excitement, but it was always a part of the larger rivalry between the two superpowers. Beyond these races, the USA and the Soviet Union also fought each other indirectly. These conflicts were called proxy wars. This meant that instead of their own armies fighting, they supported different sides in wars happening in other countries. For example, in the Korean War and the Vietnam War, the United States supported one side, while the Soviet Union supported the other. The main reason for these proxy wars was to spread their own political ideas and gain more influence around the world. The USA wanted to promote democracy and capitalism, while the Soviet Union aimed to spread communism. These wars caused great suffering and instability for the people living in those nations, making the global tension even higher. This long, tense time truly showed how deeply divided the world had become. 6. The wall comes down. The Soviet Union ended in 1991. This was a very important moment in world history. For many years, the world lived with the tension of the Cold War. It was a time when the United States and the Soviet Union were great rivals. They had very different ideas about how countries should be run and how people should live. Both nations also had many powerful nuclear weapons. People often worried about a big war. But in 1991, everything changed. The Soviet Union no longer existed as a country. This meant that the long, tense period of the Cold War was finally over. People around the world felt a sense of relief and great happiness. It was like a heavy, dark cloud had lifted from over the globe. Many hoped for a new, more peaceful time for everyone. With the end of the Cold War, a new relationship between the United States and Russia began. At first, this new era was full of hope and cooperation. The two nations started to act like friends and partners again. Boris Yeltsin was the president of Russia during this time. He worked hard to build a good, warm relationship with the United States. Leaders from both countries met often to discuss important global issues. One very big topic was how to control nuclear weapons. Both sides wanted to make the world safer by reducing these dangerous weapons. They also worked together to fight against terrorism, which was a growing problem. There was a strong feeling that the two powerful countries could now solve problems together. They could help each other and work for the good of the whole world. This period showed a great promise of a new, lasting partnership. However, this new friendship did not stay strong for a very long time. Soon, new difficulties and disagreements started to appear between the United States and Russia. One main reason for these growing problems was NATO. NATO is a military alliance, a group of countries that promise to defend each other if one is attacked. It was first created many years ago to protect Western Europe from the Soviet Union. After the Soviet Union broke apart, NATO began to grow. More countries from Eastern Europe, which were once part of the Soviet bloc, joined this alliance. These new member countries were very close to Russia's borders. Russia saw this growth of NATO as a big problem. It felt that NATO was moving too close to its own land. Russia worried that this expansion was a direct threat to its national safety and security. It felt like the alliance, which was once against the Soviet Union, was now becoming a danger to Russia itself. This created new feelings of mistrust and concern. The hope for a lasting friendship slowly began to fade as these worries grew stronger. 7. New problems. In the early years of the 21st century, Russia began to show a strong desire to become a major world power once more. Under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, Russia aimed to reassert its influence on the global stage. This goal led to a new period of competition and tension with the United States. The friendly relations that followed the end of the Cold War started to disappear. One of the most significant disagreements between the two nations was over the country of Ukraine. In 2014, Russia took control of Crimea, a region that belonged to Ukraine. This action caused a big international crisis. Following this, Russia also sent its military into other parts of Ukraine. The United States and its many allies strongly disagreed with these actions. In response, they placed several sanctions on Russia. These sanctions were economic measures, like stopping certain types of trade or financial dealings, meant to punish Russia for its actions. These events made the relationship between Russia and the United States very difficult and tense. Another important area of conflict was the situation in Syria. A long and complex war was happening in Syria. The United States and Russia found themselves on opposite sides, supporting different groups in the conflict. Russia provided military help to the Syrian government, while the United States supported other rebel forces. This put the two powerful nations in direct opposition in a foreign land. These different positions on global issues highlighted how their goals and interests often clashed. These major events marked a clear return to a troubled relationship. The period of cooperation and partnership after the Soviet Union collapsed was largely over. Instead, new challenges appeared, and older disagreements seemed to resurface. The continued expansion of NATO, a military alliance, towards Russia's borders remained a key point of concern for Russia. Russia viewed this expansion as a potential threat to its own security. However, the United States maintained that NATO was a defensive alliance, working for peace and stability. These different understandings made it very hard for trust to grow between the two countries. Beyond these major geopolitical issues, new types of problems also began to emerge. Cybersecurity, which involves protecting computer systems and information, became an important topic. Both nations spoke about the need for cybersecurity. However, at times, they accused each other of being involved in cyber attacks. This added another layer of difficulty and suspicion to their already complex relationship. The leaders of both nations often discussed these various problems, but finding common ground and clear solutions proved to be very challenging. The world watched as these two influential countries navigated a new era filled with both new problems and the echoes of past rivalries. Their future path was uncertain, with many obstacles still ahead. 8. The two powers today. The United States and Russia are still very important countries in the world today. They both have great power, but they use this power in different ways and have different strengths. When we look at their military strength, we see some clear differences. The United States spends the most money on its defense compared to any other country. It has a very modern army, navy, and air force. These forces can operate in many places around the world, showing its global reach. Russia also has a strong military. It has many soldiers and advanced weapons. Russia is especially known for having the largest number of nuclear weapons in the world. This strong military power makes both nations very important when thinking about global security. Now let's look at their money and main businesses. The United States has the biggest economy in the entire world. Its economy gets money from many different areas, making it very diverse. These important areas include new technology, banking, and many kinds of services. In one recent year, the total value of all goods and services produced in the United States was about $23 trillion. Russia's economy is built differently. It relies mostly on its vast natural resources, especially oil and natural gas. These resources are very important for its income and trade. In the same year, Russia's total money value was about $1.6 trillion. This shows that the United States has a much larger and more varied economy. We can also compare their people and ways of life. The United States has a population of about 333 million people. Russia has fewer people, with a population of about 146 million. In terms of culture, people often see Americans as very open, direct, and focused on being individuals. Russians, on the other hand, are sometimes perceived as more quiet, reserved, and focused on their groups or communities rather than just themselves. These cultural differences can also play a role in how the two countries interact on the world stage. Today, the relationship between these two powerful nations remains very complex. They continue to be major global players, each with significant influence. Their different strengths in military power, economic structure, and cultural identity shape how they interact with each other, and with the rest of the world. Even with a history of challenges and recent disagreements, their roles on the world stage mean they continue to affect many global events. Understanding their current situations, their strengths, and their differences helps us see why their relationship is so important for everyone and why it continues to be watched closely around the globe.